Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 188, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fibernymph on Ravelry and Instagram. Today is Wednesday, January 27th. I'm recording a day earlier than usual for a number of reasons, but bottom line is it's just scheduling wise, it's making more sense for me to do it today, so you've got me today. Let's see. Oh, I have new people to say hi to because I didn't get to do that last time. Lina, L-I-N-A-H. Lina, I'm sorry. I know I'm butchering it. She's from Norway, living in Sweden. She introduced herself on the 90% Knitting board in the welcome thread, as well as Andrea, who does not list a location, but she said hello as well. So welcome to both of you. Thank you for introducing yourselves. It's always nice to hear from you. And it's always nice when I remember to say hi back. So anyway, I don't have a whole lot today, so this may actually be a reasonable length podcast because there's no shop update per se this week. I am going to be doing I'm not even calling it an update. I'm going to do pre-orders for Pi Day, which I will talk about a little bit more towards the end of the episode, but those are going to be going up later today. So if you want to know about that, stick around to the shop news section, and then the February minis of the month will be going up on Monday, but I'll also talk about that towards the end of the episode. But no actual shop update right now. So anyway, let's talk about knitting. I've got some finished objects to show you. I finished, and I'm laughing because I may very well rip this out, but I'll show it to you as it is. This is my hand spun project. Remember, I was using the loop bump that I spun quite a while ago from a January 2012 club shipment called Red Letter Day. That was the colorway. I knit this on US 9s. I had 180 yards to work with, and I just used my basic vanilla shawl pattern that my recipe. It's not even a pattern, it's just a recipe. I change it up every once in a while, and this time I changed it up so that I did the increases on both edges and the center around the center stitch, so 4 increases on both the front and the back. This is, whoa, lighting is doing something really weird. Suddenly the sun came out. I'm sorry. I look like I'm glowing. Yikes. Anyway, maybe if I turn this off. No, that's not really any better. Oh boy. Okay. Hang on a second. I'll be right back. Okay, there. That's a little better. You know, I sat down to record and I thought, great, it's overcast this morning. I don't have to worry about blocking the sun out or anything. What, 2 minutes into it? Boom, sunlight. I'm not going to complain about the sunlight, but that was a little inconvenient. But I've now blocked the sunlight from the podcast. Okay, getting back to this. So I did 4 increases, 1 on each edge and 2 in the center on both the right side and the wrong side of this. Which did not quite yield the results that I was thinking it would yield. I mean, I knew it would turn out to be more of a V. I didn't envision this deep of a V with very little on either side of the V. So, long story short, I mean, it's okay. I love the colors. I absolutely love how they knit up from the loop bump, the way they were plied, because I did a Navajo ply. But it's really small. Like, I could wear it this way. Like, I could put it across my shoulders like this, and it would stay really nicely because of that V shape. And it reaches down to my back fairly well, too. I mean, you can see how far down it goes. So, I mean, it would function to keep me warm this way. So, in that respect, it's okay. I can't really wrap it. I mean, it's not a wrapping kind of shawl. I suppose I could do it in the front and wrap the ends this way if I wanted to wear it inside of a coat, but the ends are actually so small that they don't really even wrap real well that way. So this isn't quite as functional. I could put it on a pole and use it as a flag. That would work. Or I could wear it as a babushka. It would work for that too. But as an actual shawl, not so much. So, I mean, 180 yards of what was probably at least an Aran weight yarn is not going to get you a huge shawl to begin with. I realize this. I'm really half tempted to rip this out and do it over just doing the edge increases on the wrong side and leaving the center increases out so I wouldn't have as deep of a V and it would be longer. I think I would like it better that way, and that would not be a hardship for me because I actually really, really enjoyed knitting with this yarn. Yeah, the only, you haven't seen this, but for the edging, I just did garter ridges at the bottom to keep it from rolling. Now, I have not blocked this, so it is rolling a little bit, but I did 2 garter ridges, and then I did 1 more garter row, and then I bound off. The first time I attempted to do this, I played yarn chicken and lost, and I had about this many stitches left that I couldn't bind off, so I had to pull back, which wasn't a big deal, and do it again. I started sooner, obviously, but I mean, I like how it turned out. I'm just not, I think I would get way more use out of it if it was a little longer and less deep of a V. So it was an experiment. I don't hate it. I just don't think I'm going to get as much use out of it as I would like to. And even once, if I do redo it and have it be longer, it's still going to be small. So I'm not entirely sure how much use I'll get out of it at all. What I may do is block it, and in blocking try to stretch it a little bit long ways and see what that does for it. Because honestly, if I could even just wear it the way I had it on at first, you know, just draped over my shoulders, that's the way I tend to wear shawls around my house to keep warm, so it would be functional that way. I don't know. Like I said, I don't hate this. I really like it. I love how the yarn knit up. I love the drape of it. It's a thick, chunky shawl, you know, and it's got that little bit of sparkle in it, which makes it pretty too. It's just not overly functional. I probably would have been better served just knitting a cowl out of this, like a long cowl that I could double or triple, which was my original plan, but I felt like doing something different, so I did. Oh well, it is what it is. Okay, the other finished object I have, which is not, I'm calling it finished on the podcast. In my Ravelry project page, I have it listed as 95% finished because I don't have the tassels on it yet. But then the hat part is done. And this is the Capuchin hat. The pattern's by Adalia Ilikmanova. I showed you the pattern last week, and I showed you my beginning of my hat, which I totally messed up and realized that as I was showing you. Because instead of starting with ribbing, I had just launched right into garter stitch, and that was incorrect. So I did rip that out. And the other thing I did when I ripped it out, I did go down to US 9s. I had started on 11s, and that was way too loose. So I went to 9s, and that's definitely, it was a better choice. This is a really oddly shaped hat. I mean, I knew that going into it. Just looking at the pattern, you know it's an odd shaped hat. That's kind of the point. It's also odd shaped more so for me because, once again, even though I did the ribbing, I thought it said to do 5 inches of ribbing. It didn't. It said to do 5 centimeters of ribbing. There's a huge difference. Thankfully, I stopped way before 5 inches, but it's about 8 centimeters. So the ribbing is a little long on this. I feel like I did something else a little wonky. I can't remember what. The other thing that I'm not 100% sure about is the fact, I mean, it's meant to be open in the back, and I am going to try it on for you in a second. But it's almost open in the back so far that I feel like it doesn't necessarily stay on it. Like I would like it to be like down to here closed, and then, you know, it can be open around the bottom so that it doesn't scrunch up. So I may end up seaming that a little bit. And then of course I did not do the tassels. The tassel goes on the top and on one on each edge or corner. Now, I had to break into the second skein to finish this. Had I not gone overboard with the ribbing, I would have definitely been able to finish the hat part in one skein. So, okay, I'm going to try this on for you. My ends are not woven in on the inside, but okay, here we go. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Now, you can see like like this is where it is. So I guess it's kind of like that little indentation at the base of your skull. That's where it's closed off. Like that's where the stockinette part begins on the back of your head, the way this fits. Now, I'm assuming, looking at the pictures, and I don't have the pattern with me, but if you remember, it kind of had this pixie kind of shape to it in the picture. But even had I made the ribbing narrower like it was supposed to be, it was still going to have this weird angle. So I don't think that's something that's going to block out just because it's ribbing, and ribbing doesn't tend to stay blocked. It wants to spring back by its very nature. So I don't know. Part of me wants to just put a button on one corner of this and like an afterthought buttonhole. And it would make an excellent hood that would keep you very, very warm in windy weather. I don't know. It looks a little funny to me. Maybe once the tassels are on it, it'll make it look funnier, no doubt. I am not in love with this project, not nearly as much as I like the one that, the girl from Milkshed, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I'm totally blanking. Hers was really cute. The one in the pattern is really cute. Mine just looks really dorky. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. It may get ripped out and just the yarn repurposed. I don't know. It looks so huge though, doesn't it? I mean, it looks like a monster hat. But it's just because of the way it's made. So, I don't know. What do you think? I'm very lukewarm about this one. Whatever. So, but it's mostly done, and I've totally decimated my hair now, so sorry. Okay, so that was my knitting this week. No, that wasn't all my knitting. Actually, I do have more knitting. Knitting that I'm really happy with, actually. I finished the second bright sparkly rainbow sock. So they're both, the tube part of them both is done. They just need their afterthought heels. I love these socks. I love, love, love how they turned out. This is the second one, and as you can see, it only very, very mildly started getting into this like orangish color that goes into the gold. I didn't quite hit the gold, but I think what I'm going to do is I told you I waited to do the afterthought heels because I wanted to be able to pick and choose what colors I used. So here's what I have left of the sock blank. The sock blank was from Knitty and Color. It's on a sparkly sock blank base. Got it at Maryland Sheep and Wool last year. So this is what I've got left. And I just knit this on my usual US 1.5s, 60 stitches, vanilla sock. So I'm going to do the second sock is going to get a heel starting with this. So I'm going to start right where I left off from the toe and put the heel in because it'll go right into that blue. And I think that'll look awesome. Because this is a very dark sock compared to the first one. There's really no lightness in it. Then the second sock, since it's mostly bright and light, I'm going to use blue. I'm hoping I don't need to wind off down to this blue because somewhere I have a little ball of blue that I wound off from the very beginning of the sock blank because this was a huge chunk of blue and there was that same huge chunk of blue at the beginning of the sock blank, and I knew I did not want my entire sock to have this big blue chunk at the beginning. So I wound off about half of it, and I'm pretty sure that that would be enough to do the heel on this sock. So this sock is going to have a blue heel. This one will have the gold heel. So hopefully by next week these will be completely done and I will be able to show you my finished sock blank socks, which they were also sort of an experiment because I had never knit off of a sock blank before. And if you've been watching, you know that I was feeling sort of lukewarm about that. Boy, if I named my podcast, I think, my episodes, I think I would probably name this one the lukewarm episode. But I've definitely warmed up to it. As I was getting through that second sock, I was really, really enjoying it. The kinky yarn wasn't bothering me anymore. The fact that the sock is very nubbly because it was knit by the kinky yarn, that's really not bothering me. One thing I am thinking about doing maybe is soaking those socks and putting them on blockers before I do. Well, I don't know if I'd be able to put them on blockers. Well, I could put the top part on blockers far enough down to where the heel would go. I'm just concerned about picking up the afterthought heel stitches with them being so kinky and irregular. I think it might be better to do that after they have been soaked and blocked a little bit. So I'm considering that. We'll see. But otherwise, I'm really happy with those. They're bright and they're happy and they're cheerful. So who doesn't love that in the middle of winter, right? Alrighty, I did not at all work on that garter bias wrap, not for any reason, like I'm not out of love with it or anything. I'm not lukewarm about it. I just didn't have time to work on it this week. I am going to be casting on some new projects though. I feel like I have been working on, well, I can't say that because both of those first two projects I showed you, that little wrap, hand spun wrap and the capuchin hat, I mean, they were only a week or two old, each of them. So I guess I have cast new things on. I'm in a cast on-y mood, you know, and everything else that's in my queue or in my projects, my active projects, aside from these socks, none of them are ones that I really feel like working on right now. Let me look at it right now. I'm going to look and tell you what I've got going. I've got, the tassels for this purple hat, if I decide to do that. The garter bias wrap. I do want to work on that, and I will work on that. My antler cardie, I could not be less interested in working on that right now. I just don't feel it. Gonna finish my bright sparkly rainbow socks. The Slinky Ribs pullover, I keep thinking about pulling that out and just biting the bullet and finishing it, but again, not really feeling it right now. And then the other two are my long-term projects, my mini granny square Afghan and my hand spun log cabin Afghan, which actually the log cabin square Afghan out of my hand spun, I am actually kind of starting to get the itch to work on that again to make a few more squares. I've got a ton of recently spun hand spun over on my shelf, and by recently spun I mean within the last 3 to 6 months that has been spun and plied, but I never actually soaked it. So I need to do that. I need to have a big soaking party with my hand spun soon. And then I can start working on more of those squares because a lot of those skeins will probably go into squares for that Afghan. But yeah, that's really all that's on there. And anything that's actually in official hibernation, none of it is something I want to be working on. Yeah. I have 2 different design project socks in hibernation. The one I really should just write up and get out the testers because it's pretty well done. There's a heel issue. Actually, there's a heel issue with both of them. That's why I haven't done anything. I have that Industrial Revolution shawl. Do you remember that? Oh my gosh, when did I start that? I started that in March of 2013. And I'm fairly well into it. I just don't know if I'd even be able to tell where I'm on that at this point. And that's got a lot of bobbles. I think I was in a really heavy bobble area whenever I stopped working on it, and that's probably why I stopped working on it. And then the only other project I have hibernating is my Colorwork DK mittens, which I started, when did I start working on those? You know what? I don't even have a date listed for those. Why do I not have a date listed for those? Well, project was created June 30th, 2014. So that's how long ago that was. And the last I updated it at all was October 21st of 2014. And that was probably just whenever I put it in hibernation. So I don't know. I just feel like doing something new. That's kind of the bottom line on that. So I'm probably, well, I know what I am going to be casting on soon. I'm going to be casting on another pair of Nyan Cat socks because my daughter's one roommate said, do you think your mom would make me a pair of those? And they're good friends, and she's the one that drives her home a lot because she's got a car down there and lives up here. So heck yeah, I'll knit you some Nyan Cat socks. I have the yarn ready to go. I just have to cast them on. So they're probably going to be a cast on that I'll do soon because they're just going to be plain vanilla socks. I want to cast on socks with a skein of the West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, the bird yarn that I've purchased, that I have a lot of, that I want to do. So I think a pair of those is going to go on the needles. I really wanted to finish these bright sparkly socks before I cast on any other socks. But since these are almost done, and I know I'll get the heels done because it's like that close and the heels are nothing at this point. So I think I'm due to cast on some new socks. So those two may actually both be on the needles by the time I record next. Her other two roommates, she's in a suite actually, so she has 3 suite mates. Her other two roommates both want hot water bottle cozies. Do you remember the one I made her for her birthday last year? The one wants one that looks like a pig. So I guess that means I'm going to be making a corkscrewy tail and ears and a snout. And the other one wants one that looks like a penguin with flippers. So I need to work on those too. Those will go pretty quick though. And I actually have the pig yarn. It's just pink. So I have that. I have to dye the yarn for the penguin because she wants a teal penguin. Anyway, so those are things that'll probably get cast on soon-ish. And hat. I want to do another hat. I have been wearing my hats a lot this winter. I've been wearing my accessories a lot this winter. If you look out on my dining room table on any given day, you will see a stack of like hats and mitts and mittens and cowls. I mean, I take them off there and I sit them there. Unless they're wet, then I hang them up downstairs. But in general, I've been wearing a ton of my accessories, probably more than I ever have any other winter. It's been awesome. And I'm finally coming to terms with what I like to knit. And this kind of goes back to one of my goals for this year is like knit what you love to knit. That's what I want to be doing. And I love knitting accessories. I love knitting hats. I love knitting mitts. I love knitting socks. I love knitting shawls, cowls, those things I love. I want to love knitting sweaters, but I really don't. That's the honest truth of it. I love having the hand knit sweaters, but I don't love knitting the sweaters. So that's why sweater knitting is probably not going to be too high at the top of my priority list right now until I get a bug to really get it done. Then I'll knit some sweaters. I don't know. But for now, I'm just going to embrace the accessories and enjoy them and knit them and have fun with them. So, alrighty. What else did I do this week? Spinning. I finished the Sanguine Griffin bat. And it is beauteous. I absolutely love the finished yarn that I got with this. This again was Sanguine Griffin old. Like this was one of my 6 that I pulled out, my oldest fiber stash. This was a bat that was superwash merino, and silk. Not my favorite combination of fibers. I don't enjoy spinning merino, but once I caught on that I needed to spin this woolen, it went much better, and I really do enjoy it. There's some really thick parts in some, not really thick, but there's definitely some thick parts in some places. Trying to get it to focus here. There we go. It turned out really nice though, and it's really squishy. It is merino, so it's going to be squishy. But I just love the colors, and it really sort of reminds me of Starry Night. I think I mentioned that last week. So anyway, I love it. And that's done. I also started spinning. I pulled out one of the big lots of fiber. Remember, I have 3 things of fiber that I showed you a couple weeks ago that are each about 1.5 pounds. Well, I pulled one of those out and I started spinning it. This is the Briar Rose BFL, and this is the first bump of it. I have 2 of these bumps. One was like 12 ounces, one was 13 ounces, a little bit over. I've dubbed them Bump A and Bump B. Bump B is in the box yet. They aren't necessarily the same exact dye lot, but they're very, very close. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin 2 bobbins of Bump A and then 1 bobbin of Bump B and ply those together. I'm going to do this as a 3-ply, which is going to turn out really great because this is spinning up so fine. I'll show you in a minute. But anyway, my first skein is going to be 2 bobbins of A, 1 bobbin of B plied together. The next one will be 2 bobbins of B, 1 bobbin of A plied together. And I'm going to go back and forth like that because I want to blend the colors as much as I can. Plus, just within the bumps themselves, even though it is all this beautiful blue, there's a lot of shading in there, which you'll probably be able to see when I show you the bobbin here. So I just wanted to get it mixed up as much as I can. But this is my first bobbin. I just finished it this morning. Isn't it gorgeous? I love this color. I don't know how well you can actually see the... What Okay, come on, focus, will ya? Everything always wants to focus behind me. Okay, there. But I mean, take a look. I mean, you can see, this isn't even the finest part of it actually, but that's pretty fine. This is actually a little bit, there's finer places in here that it has spun up. So anyway, I am thinking if I 3-ply this, I'm actually probably going to get a heavy fingering weight. That's how fine this is spinning up, because I let some of it ply back on itself. Actually, maybe I can do that here. Let's see if I can. It's not doing it so well at the very end. Yeah, it's not not doing it well at all. So never mind, won't show you that. But yeah, it's going to be a lightweight yarn. It's definitely not going to be a worsted weight or anything once it's 3-plied. But that's okay, because I want to get some decent yardage from it, because I would like to do a larger project. Maybe not a sweater, considering I don't enjoy the sweater thing right now. But I would love to do something big with this at some point. I don't know what. And I've got all the fiber, so I might as well make the most of it, right? I do have a second bobbin started on the wheel. I didn't bring it in because it looks very similar to the first, but it's underway. This is going to take me a while to spin, because remember, I have about 26 ounces, and I've probably got maybe 2 ounces on this bobbin. It's going to be a while at that rate, but that's okay. Good things take time. Let's see. That moves us into the hand spun along, because I have done nothing else this week. That was everything. The hand spun along is still going on. So knitting with hand spun, you have through February 29th to get that done. The threads are up. The general thread with all the guidelines and all the chatter, and I've been following that. That's been a lot of fun. You guys are into this. And then the finished object thread, which is a no chatter thread. I am really loving seeing what you guys are knitting with your hand spun. You're doing wonderful things. It's so satisfying to knit with your own hand spun, or even with somebody else's hand spun. It's such a different experience than knitting with a commercially spun yarn or a mill spun yarn, but knitting with your own hand spun, I find really to be very, very satisfying. So I hope you're enjoying it. Anyway, also on the 90% knitting board on Ravelry, there is the Tell Us the Good Things thread. I don't think I mentioned it last week. I mentioned it the week before, but I'm going to mention it again this week. People have been posting in there, and I've been enjoying reading that, because I'm all about wanting to focus on the good things this year. So please take part in that. I'd love to see what the good things are that you're finding. Like, they don't have to be big, fabulous good things. They can be little, tiny good things. All good things all count. That's pretty much it for 90% this week. Moving into 10%, this is sort of a crossover. Yesterday was the Uphelia Fire Festival in Shetland, in Lerwick, Shetland. I guess this takes place in multiple locations around Shetland, but the big one is there in Lerwick. It looks like it's Lerwick, but they were pronouncing it Lerwick, so I'll go with Lerwick. Anyway, the Uphelia Fire Festival was so cool. Unfortunately, I do not believe it's like captured so that you can watch it after the fact. It was a live streaming thing, and thankfully at the time I was dying. I was out in my kitchen so I could have it on my tablet and got to watch it. It's just this really cool festival. I'll try to put some links in the show notes so you can read about it and the history of it and everything. But basically it's got this Viking theme going on, and there's lots of torches and a big Viking replica boat that the Jarl rides on, and his squad and all the guys. He's the only one riding on the boat, but then his squad walks around. They've got the big torches, and then there's other squads walking with big torches. There's like, I think they said 860 some torches, and 1,000 guys actually a part of this. And then at the very end, they set the boat on fire by tossing the torches into the boat after the Jarl gets off the boat. He does not have to burn with his boat, which is fortunate, because nobody would want to be Jarl then. And then it's followed up by an entire night of partying, which you can imagine. It was just really, really cool, and I loved listening to the history of it that they were talking about, you know, both, you know, how it came to be and the history of it over the years. I just love listening to it because their accents are fabulous. You know, it was a lot of fun. So you can go and look at that. I'll put links up. That was a fun thing to watch. It's, I think, at least in part sponsored by Promote Shetland, who does the 60 North magazine. I've mentioned this before. I don't have a copy of it to show you, but I did recently subscribe to it. If you're at all interested in life in the Shetland Islands, which, you know, Shetland wool, gotta love Shetland. It's a really cool magazine, so check it out. Yeah, so there was that. Another cool thing that I got to see, and I got to see this in person, was last Thursday. We went to the Earth Harp concert. Now, if you watch America's Got Talent, maybe you know what the Earth Harp is, because this guy was on there with his Earth Harp, I guess a couple of years ago. He was a finalist. I don't watch that show, so I had absolutely no idea what the Earth Harp was. Just a couple months ago, Bill was like, hey, the Earth Harp is coming to Pittsburgh. Want to go see it? I'm like, okay, sure. He didn't know what it was either. He just said, this sounds really cool. So we went, and it's basically like this big harp thing that the stand is on the stage, but the wires for the harp, the strings are projected. They go all the way up onto like the balcony of the theater. So it's huge, you know, like basically, as the guy was described, William Chase, his first name's William. Anyway, he was saying, like, wherever you set this up, that place becomes the instrument. It was so cool. And they had other instruments. The man creates all kinds of instruments, very interesting things. And he was very personable, very fun to watch and hear, you know. Fabulous singer. His wife also plays the Earth Harp. There was a drummer, there was a guitarist. Yeah, it was super cool. Really fun to watch. So that was last Thursday. And then the snow came. Winter definitely came this weekend. I'm sure there are those of you who got way, way more snow than me. I know the East really got hit. I got about 6 inches here, maybe a little bit more. About less than an hour to the east, up in the mountains, they had 2 feet. Yeah. So Saturday was the big snow day, and I did get to use my snowblower, and it worked because I used it correctly, so that was pretty awesome. My neighbor had actually come down and done a random act of kindness and sort of plowed out the top half of my driveway for me. I didn't even realize he had done it until Christopher came home because he got called out to work. He had to do a lot of shoveling. He came home, he's like, oh, how'd the snowblower work? I'm like, I don't know, I haven't used it yet because it was still snowing. And he's looking at me like, huh? And I'm like, does it look like I've snowblowed? I was like frustrated. And he's like, well, yeah. I'm like, what? So I look outside and I'm like, what the heck? Like, how did that happen? And then I remembered that my one neighbor who lives down the road a bit, I haven't talked to them in years. I mean, I don't see them that often. Everybody kind of keeps themselves on my road. But anyway, I'd seen him come down. He was plowing his driveway, I could see, and then he came down and did the neighbor right across the street from me, who was an elderly couple. So he did theirs. Well, I hear he had done mine too, and I thought that was so sweet, and I called and talked to his wife. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Pat did that for me. Thank you so much. So anyway, but by the time, I mean, it was still snowing, and so by the time I did get out with the snowblower, there was still a lot of snow to move. But it went well, and again, I'm so thankful for being able to put salt down, which I did, and just to make a path to walk on after I snow blew. But yeah, it really worked well. I'm just so happy to have my paved driveway this winter. And then on Sunday, I went up to Bill's house and I helped him plow out his driveway because, like I said, he got like 2 feet of snow up there. So we worked outside for a while. And then we went snowshoeing. This is the first time I've gotten to go snowshoeing this year. That was a lot of fun. Tons of snow up there to go in. So it was a really good time. Excellent workout, even with snowshoes on, traipsing through that much snow. So we had fun though. So good weekend all in all. All right, let's move into shop news. First of all, thank you to everyone who shopped in the update last Saturday morning. I apologize for the fact that the shop update went live late. It went up about 25 minutes late, and the reason it went up late was because of what I just told you about with the snow and my neighbor plowing out my driveway. Chris came home right around 10 o'clock when the update was supposed to go live, and that's when we started having this conversation about, did you do the driveway? No, I didn't do the driveway, but the driveway is done. And then, me realizing it was the neighbor, and me calling the neighbor, and by the time I got off the phone with the neighbor, it was like 25 after 10. I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed to do the shop update at 10 o'clock. The snow had me completely discombobulated, so I apologize if you were one of the people who was sitting at your computer waiting for my update to go live. I always set an alarm on my phone for updates. It didn't go off for some reason. I never did figure out why, but it didn't. And so, perfect storm of things going on. But anyway, the shop update went really well. Thank you so much for those of you who went and bought things. Everything will be shipping out today, by the way, if you bought something out of the update on Saturday. I also want to let you know, since the Pi Day went really, really fast, and we've still got a little bit of time between now and this year's actual Pi Day, which is March 14th, I'm going to do a pre-order today. Later today, I'll put this up. I'll wait until after I publish the podcast to all its various locations, so you'll hopefully have a chance of seeing the podcast before I put it up. But I'm going to put a pre-order up, limited number, like probably 8 at the max, for Pi Day. And what I'm going to do, it's all going to be on Bounce Base. The pre-orders will all be for Bounce. But there will be a drop-down menu in the listing where you can choose which Pi Day colorway you want. There's the original Pi Day, there's a second helping of pie, and then there is the darker side of pie, which I just debuted in the update last weekend. So you can pick which one you want. They're all the same price because they're all in the same base. I am asking that you limit it to 1 per customer, please, just so that more than a couple people can get it. I will have it again in the shop, but I just wanted to try to get a few extra skeins out there for this year's Pi Day. My goal is to have it shipped by Pi Day. No, before Pi Day. Wait, let me count. Sorry. Okay, here, I'll look at this calendar rather than like reaching into the camera. I should have done this ahead of time. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I am going to do my best to get it shipped out by March 9th. That's 6 weeks. Pre-orders, I always say 4 to 6 weeks sooner if I'm able. Since I'm still dying for a show, and I've got a couple of wholesale orders I need to finish, I don't want to promise it sooner than that, but I am definitely going to do my best to try to get it out to you earlier than March 9th. Okay? Because that way you would have it prior to Pi Day if you wanted to knit socks to wear on Pi Day. But if not, you could always cast them on Pi Day. There's always that. So that is my goal, to get them out prior to March 9th. But again, that would be the very latest it would go out. So anyway, you can look for those pre-orders later today. The February minis of the month will be going up for pre-order on Monday. I have it dyed. It's not dry, so it's not reskeined yet for me to show you, but I will be putting preview pictures up in all the usual locations, in Fiber Nymph Dye Works group in that thread, on the Facebook page. If you're not a member of the Facebook page, if you have not liked Fiber Nymph Dye Works on Facebook, please do, because I always post. That's the one place where stuff definitely gets posted in a really timely manner as far as update stuff and special stuff and events, things like that always goes on that page. Sometimes a little slower putting it in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group on Ravelry. I know that seems silly, but that's just the way it goes. And I try to Instagram stuff too, but I don't like to inundate Instagram with my business stuff, so not as much goes up there. But anyway, the February minis of the month will go up for pre-order on Monday, February 1st at 9 a.m. as usual. The January ones are all done. I'm working on getting them packaged up, and they will ship out definitely by Saturday, sooner if I'm able. So there's that. I don't have any regular shop updates scheduled at this point, and I will probably not be doing one until after Indie Knit and Spin. That is February 6th here in Pittsburgh from 10 to 4 at the Edgewood Community Center. I will do an update the following week after that with show leftovers, but there will not be any more regular shop updates prior to Indie Knit and Spin because I'm just one person and I can't get it all done. So, okay, I think that's everything. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you're new, thanks for checking this podcast out. If you've been around, thanks for coming back. If you have any questions about anything I've talked about, please check the episode thread in Ravelry. I try really hard to get show notes up there. Some weeks I miss, but I try. If you ever have a question that I don't answer in the show notes or the show notes are missing, feel free to message me on Ravelry. That's the easiest way to answer, or post in the episode thread on Ravelry. That's the easiest way for me to answer those questions. You can always email me. I'm fibernymph@gmail.com. That's fine too. It's harder for me to answer questions if you leave comments on YouTube or on iTunes. I don't ever check iTunes. I can just tell you that right now. I used to, but I don't go on iTunes for pretty much of anything other than like uploading the podcast, and I don't actually go on iTunes to do that. But if you're leaving me questions or comments or whatever, I'm sorry, I'm not really seeing them. I appreciate if you are leaving nice comments or something, or star ratings, because that does help out other podcasters too in the knitting genre. It helps bring them up. But I'm not seeing them. YouTube, I do see the comments. I don't always get to comment back because the reply thing is a little weird sometimes. Sometimes I can do it easily, sometimes not so much. And it usually depends on if I'm on my computer versus my phone or my tablet. So again, questions are best posed in the Ravelry group in the episode thread if you have a specific question. If you have something that you want yarn-wise, like business-wise, that is best to email me directly at fibernymph@gmail.com, because if you do it through Ravelry, sometimes things get lost. So, okay, I think that's everything. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.